Howdy, howdy, this is Mr. Potter. What we're going to talk about in today's video is our Unit 3 list searching and sorting performance task. So what I'm going to do is just go straight off to our Google Drive. So we're going to go to our Google Drive, and I'm going to create two files here. The first file I'm going to create is a Google Docs file, and we're going to go ahead and call this, so we're going to change this to Performance Task 3 report. So that's going to be the report that we have, and then in this folder I'm also going to go and create a Sheets folder. Now Sheets is our spreadsheet, and this is actually going to be our performance, come on, no, just like this, Performance Task 3 data. And I'm just using this as a place to hold my data, because what we're going to be doing is collecting data, searching for data, and sorting data. So sometime between now and the next class period, you're going to have to collect 30 pieces of numerical data. And the reason we want it to be numerical data is because we want to be able to manipulate it. So what I've done is I've asked my classes for their shoe sizes. So I've actually got them here. There are 30 different shoe sizes. I only asked 29 of my students because my shoe size is actually right here. That's my 16. But what you're going to do is collect this data and keep it raw. In other words, don't change it yet, because the very first thing you're going to have to do is detail the idea of doing a linear search for your piece of data in this set. So if I wanted to describe that, I would say that I'd start with my first data, which, by the way, remember that is our element 0 in our array. And since it's not there, I'm going to go to the next element, and then it's not there, so I'm going to go to the next element, which is element 2, then the next element, element 3, and I found my data. So I know that my data is in box 3 of this list. So I need to detail the process of how I go through a linear search. And then once I've done a linear search, and I'm going to type that up, that process up in my report, the second thing I'm going to do is we're going to do a selection sort on this data. And you're going to show me the steps for the first 5 parts of the selection sort. Remember that a selection sort goes through, finds the smallest piece of data and puts it in box 0, finds the next smallest piece of data and puts it in box 1, and so forth. Now, you don't have to show your work for the entire set, but I do expect to see it for the first 5 elements of our set. So I'm looking at this. The smallest piece of data that I see is this 6 right here. So this 6 has got to trade places with the data I have here, which means this is going to be a 6, this is going to be the 6.5, and then all the rest of this data, in other words, this data here, I can copy and paste. This data here, I can copy and paste. So what's actually happened here is these elements, the 6, which I'm going to bold, and the 6.5, which I'm going to bold, those are the ones that have traded places. So let me bold that real quick. So, and that's just not showing up very well in the bold here, is it? So let's change the color then. So I'll make this a nice different color like, I don't know, pink. And I'll make this 6 a pink as well, so that I know that that data is the data that's traded places. Now I'm looking at the next piece of data, and the next smallest piece of data that I see is a 6.5. And remember that when we're doing the selection sort, it's always the first one that we come up with. Even though I have 2 6.5s, this is the one that's going to get traded with position 1. So in other words, this 6 and this 10 are going to trade places. So this is going to be 6.5, and this is going to be 10. And all the rest of this data is just going to copy over. So this 6 copies over, this the 11 through 8 are going to copy over, and the 11 through 10 down here are going to copy over. And you're going to go through this detailed process talking about which elements are going to swap, and then actually performing the swap for those elements. You're going to do that for 5 steps, and then to illustrate what's going on in our selection sort. And when you're done with this, you're going to want to copy this table. So this is the original data along with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our sorted data. So it's actually going to be a total of 7 columns that we're going to be copying. Now, when I copy this, I'm doing Control C, or I can do copy like this. And in this document, we're actually going to need to tweak this a little bit. So we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Page Setup, and we're going to change these margins a little bit. Let's make them 0.5 for top and bottom and left and right. That way, when I paste, our data has a better chance of actually fitting all on the page. And it still doesn't fit on all the page, so what we may want to do is change the size of this font to something like an 8. That way all of this data will fit on one page. So you're going to need a page for this data along with the first 5 steps of your selection sort. And this last column, of course, will be your completely sorted data. Once you have this data sorted, now you want to actually go through the details of doing a binary search for your data. Remember that when we're looking at a binary search, we start looking at the first cell and the last cell, and we take the, our last cell would actually be 29. We add these together and we divide by 2. So 29 plus 0 is 29. Half of that is 14 and a half, and we treat that as a 14. So this is cell 14, and I would look at that piece of data first to see if that's the piece of data that I'm looking for or not. Actually, that's 14 because I'm off by 1. And you're going to continue with this divide and conquer, and you're going to tell me how many times did it take to find your piece of data? What cells did you look at when you were looking for your data? So that's what you're going to have to put in your report. After you've done this much, now the rest of your report comes into play, because we're actually going to want a total of 50 points, which means from your sorted list, you're going to have to add 20 more unsorted data pieces. And the reason that we add these at the end is to do our insertion sort. So we're going to do the insertion sort after the selection sort. The insertion sort after we've added 20 unsorted pieces of data to our 30 sorted pieces of data. And once you've done that, you're going to do another binary search. So you're going to copy, again, the first 5 steps of your insertion sort for this data and paste it in your report. And then you're going to do a binary search for your own personal data. And then you're going to reflect upon this. Talk about which case was it easier for you to find your data, which case was it harder to find your data, as well as any other techniques that you noticed, any patterns that you noticed, any other information. The purpose of this report is to not only show that you understand how to collect, sort, and search for data, unsorted and sorted, but that you also understand, the techniques that we've talked about. You can compare and contrast, see which one's better under which circumstances, which one's poorer under which circumstances. And you're going to put this into a document that's going to have 2 pages of data and 2 pages of discussion. Discussion of the process of how you went through the sorting technique, how you went through the searching technique, as well as your comparison for the different sorting techniques and searching techniques. And this is going to be part of your report. Once you've done your report, you're going to go to File and Email Collaborators. You're going to email this as an attachment, and you're going to email this to your teacher as a PDF using your teacher's Northside account. So for me, it would be tony.potter@nisd.net, along with your subject, which is Performance 3 Task Report, anything you want to tell me about your report. And this is going to be due not this Friday, not next Friday, but the following Sunday, anywhere on Earth. So the usual anywhere on Earth rule that we have for our deadline. Remember, of course, that we do have a couple of obstacles coming up this week, because we have Columbus Day coming up next Monday. We have the PSAT taking place on campus the Wednesday. And so schedules are going to get a little disrupted. I need you to compensate for that with your technique. You need to make sure you stay on top of this, because you're not going to be able to ask people for data over a weekend. So this is the general gist of what I'm expecting in your report. I'm expecting a lot out of you, and I know that you can achieve this. So once again, this is Mr. Potter. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.